ॐ शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यश्छन्दसा मृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया आस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरि विश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमितमस्मि द्रविणगुं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इतीर्थशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य मआनीस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनादितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। भद्रं नो अपि वातय मनः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तगुंहदेवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तं तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यानस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदिश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतम् पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्बोधूतं यथा निद्रया यत्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदम् श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतम् मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये यस्यैव स्फुरणं सदात्मकम् असत्कल्पार्थकं भासते साक्षात् तत्त्वमसीति वेदवचसा यो बोधयत्याश्रितान् यत्साक्षात् करणाद् भवेन्न पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भोनिधौ तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नानाच्छिद्रघटोदरस्थितमहादीपप्रभाभास्वरम् ज्ञानं यस्य तु चक्षुरादिकर्णद्वारा बहिस्पन्दते जानामीति तमेव भान्तम् अनुभाति एतत्समस्तं जगत् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये देहं प्राणमपीन्द्रियानपि चलां बुद्धिं च शून्यं विदुः स्त्रीबालान्दजडोपमास्त्वहमिति भ्रान्ताभृशं वादिनः मायाशक्तिविलासकल्पितमहा व्यामोहसंहारिणे तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। Let's chant the first two Brahma Sutras that we are doing. Athato Brahma Jigyasa Athato Brahma Jigyasa Janmadyasya Yataha Janmadyasya Yataha. So, as you know, we are doing the second sutra, Janmadiyasya Yataha. And there, the meaning of the second verse is the Lakshana of Brahman. Because the whole Brahma Sutra is about Brahman. Brahman means the very content of the whole creation, the content of you and I too. Not just the content, the very reality of you and I. That is Brahman. So, same thing as Atma. So, in the meaning of the Brahman, the Lakshana has to be given. because you cannot really find anything until what is it that you are looking for is defined and clearly enunciated. And so this is the lakshana. And then the pramana. So the pramana is, first of all, you define the object or the vastu that you are looking for, and then how to look for it, where to look for it, what will make you exactly see it is the pramana. So here, the second verse is lakshana, and the third verse that we will see next is the pramana. This is what we are talking about. And so we will continue with that analysis. But in the meantime, I had just, Ishvara puts these ideas. I mean, this is something that we have to all aspire to, which is that what you think are your thoughts and your actions, personal thoughts and personal actions, are really the result of where you are as defined by Ishvara. So your thoughts will not come to you unless you are deserving of those thoughts at that point. The reason I'm mentioning all of that, this is something that we have to really look for in our life to make progress. This is how you bring Ishvara into your life. This is how you recognize the presence of Ishvara. So somewhere I was just, I don't remember how, but it just occurred to me that maybe we should pause and think a little bit about what the lakshana of Brahman is. And so we had already done the tatastha lakshana and the swarupa lakshana, the incidental and the intrinsic. So I thought I would pause and just pose that question to you to see, not as a way of testing or anything, but just as a way for us to look at where we are in our quest for understanding. And so these are all aspirational thoughts. Aspirational thoughts means that thoughts that we should be having. It's kind of like a definition of the destination. And so, how will you define that this I have already reached the destination? You will do it if you have those thoughts in your mind. That's how your viewpoint is, how you look at yourself and the whole world. And if you look at it in this way, then you are very close to, or in fact, you might already be there. And and so these should be looked on as aspirational thoughts. I wasn't expecting, and I don't expect you to come up with that this is exactly what your thoughts are today, as some of you have truthfully given it to me. In other words, what I found was that you have expressed your thoughts as best you see them today, which is good, But in some way, these are not where you are today, but where you're going. And so if some of you did not quite follow that, then I'm very understandable. You are saying it from your standpoint, not from where you are going. But I wanted to see how you approach that whole thing. So I thought that before we proceed on with the analysis of the second sutra, which we will do either today or next time, let us pause on examining this quiz that had popped up in my mind, and I sent it to you, and you have responded quite well. In fact, I have a list here. I just made and so I think even though there are about 70 people who have registered for this course of Brahma Sutra, I find about maybe 15 to 20 are invisible to me. They have never written it to me. They have registered in the beginning, but I don't know whether they are active or not, so I don't expect them to respond to these kinds of quiz. But there were about 50 of us that are somewhat visible. Some of you are very, very regular and so on. So I expected about 50 replies, and in fact this is how it has happened. So 36 of you actually responded, and about 15 of you did not, out of this 50 population. And I respect that. You probably have, either you're too busy or you were unsure of the answers. I am not sure what the reasons are, but I did not hear back from you. And then, so I did get responses from 36 of you. And I think I may have probably sent my responses back to you, with a kind of like a grading, if you may, for most of these 36. I may have missed one or two, but I think that I did that already. So just to give you an idea, out of the 36, I think about a third of you, maybe a little less, maybe 10 out of the 36, followed the destination thoughts very well. This is what, remember I had given you an additional thought for the quiz, which said that I want your own personal perspective in the life. And so I think these 10 people or so really followed that very well. The rest of the people, another 26 or so, did not follow the personal, not the aspirational thoughts. They were just accurate in saying how you are doing now. So I completely understand that. Anyway, so as we will discuss just now, there is a certain gradation of thinking that we have to aspire to. So this is what would be called aspirational thoughts. So this is an interesting thing to as we, anyway, I just want to give you a kind of a status of your responses and so on. This is one of the things we should think about is, you look at what is called Jivan Mukti. So Jivan Mukti means, which we will discuss in more detail as we progress. Jivan Mukti means that for all intents and purposes, you have a sense of freedom in your life. You are no longer bothered by the world. You cling much more to the independence of the Atma Jnanam than to the world thoughts. These are the Atma thoughts, not Anatma thoughts. This is what Jivan Mukti is. Even though you're hungry, you're sleepy, you have to do things and so on, those become very minor in your life. The dominant thought is the Tatastha and Swarupa Lakshana of Ishvara. Okay? So here's what I'm trying to point out. Just follow this train of thought. What should be understood is that Jivan Mukti is not a sudden event. Not as though one morning you would wake up and you say, I am free. Not going to happen. What our acharyas say is that it doesn't happen. And so if you are disappointed that it has not yet occurred, then you are doing yourself a disservice. It's because it's not the destination you want. But what should happen, just the opposite of that, is that the thoughts of Jivan Mukti gradually engulf you. Gradually. This is a proportion. So in the very beginning we are samsaris. Samsaris means that things are the way I am behaving in the world and so on, that things are real, everything is real. Atma is not real, but the world is real. This is the samsari. And then in the end, the destination is that the Atma is real, the samsara is not there. In fact, I'm sorry, those thoughts are coming to me, so I'm just going to express them. Hopefully I won't lose the trend of thoughts, the train of thoughts. So, in reading a definition of the word mithya, Zarina says that your voice is very soft at times, and it starts. I don't know, I hope there is no general interruption. What had happened was that Raj Paripatyadar he had bought me a new iPad, and it was working quite well, but this morning when I started the class, it didn't work at all. And so now I am doing it on my own Android phone, and it seemed to go okay, but if there's a particular problem, then I may have to switch and so on. So I'm using the same phone for your feedback also. I don't have a separate phone. Anyway, so let me know. I think I feel my voice is okay, but if it is not coming through, then I have to do something. Anyway, let me continue. So I was reading a commentary by Swami Maheshananji on the word mithya. And in his commentary, he pointed out that the word mithya is what is called paribhashika shabda. In Sanskritam, it's called paribhashika something. In fact, in Paniniya grammar, it is called paribhashika shabda. So, paribhashika shabda means it is a technical word pertaining to the explanation of Vedantic truth. It's a technical word. And so he had given lots of other examples, but I think the modern example is the beautiful one, which is mouse. So the word mouse, M-O-U-S-E, doesn't mean the same thing to everybody, right? There could be a mouse in your closet. In fact, we have a pantry and I just caught a mouse in there. So that mouse is a real mouse. But then your mouse on your computer is a completely different mouse. It is not the same mouse. So the word mouse is pertaining to the particular technical usage of the word. This is called paribhashika shabda. Swamiji said that the word mithya is a paribhashika shabda. How? Why is it a paribhashika shabda? Technical means a technical word. How is it a technical word? This is an important thing. I think we should really pay attention to this. So if I just tell you that the world is mithya, how would you see that? You will interpret that as that the world is false. Isn't it? That the world is false. Swami Maheshananji says this is not the right way to look at mithya. This is not a paribhashika shabda. It's a paribhashika shabda, and therefore the general use of mithya means sometimes people use it and say in Hindi I'll say wo to mithya bolta hai. Mithya bolta means he speaks a lie. He has a mithya personality. Sometimes we use that it is not correct. It is a false personality. He is not speaking the truth, he is speaking a lie. He is talking about something which is not there, deliberately. This is what the mithya means. Swamiji says that's not the meaning of the word is mithya as Vedanta uses. Really? Then how? What is the technical usage? The technical use of the word mithya is, it is completely real and engulfing you until Brahma Vidya takes hold of you. And then it disappears. This is the technical use of the word mithya. Yes, it is, you can say it is false, but the way of thinking that this is false, this is false, this is false is not going to be working. It will automatically disappear if you understand the very knowledge of the Brahman. Once you understand what is reality, this viveka is done, then the world will cease to bother you automatically. That phenomena, where it is totally engulfing you until you study Brahma Vidya. And once the Brahma Vidya becomes palpable, very real to you, the world will disappear. This is the technical use of the word mithya that we should remember. Anyway, coming back to my original trend. So the Jivan Mukti is not going to happen automatically, not suddenly. Then what? It has to happen gradually. And gradually means that the more exposure I have to Brahma Vidya, which is done by Shravanam and Mananam, a repeated Shravanam and Mananam, then you don't have to force the world to be mithya, it will automatically disappear. It's like when you wake up from the dream, you don't have to force the dream to go. It just disappears. Anyway, what I was saying was that Jivan Mukti, so I want to now, I took a branch from this aspirational thoughts and how we should look at it and so on, to Jivan Mukti, and from Jivan Mukti I took a branch to Mithyatvam. Now I'm back to the Jivan Mukti. And now I'm coming back to the aspirational thoughts. So what I'm saying is this, that the thoughts of Jivan Mukti have to gradually be entertained in your mind. And the first, in the very beginning, it is very weak. But you have to strengthen it. It is there, but you have to strengthen it. I remember this example in 1979 when we were in Piercy with Swami Dayanandji. And thus, just those days, there was this camera that would give you instant prints. So you take a picture and then you take it out of that. What was it called? I forget the name of the company that made it. And so now you look at the picture. And it's a very fascinating process because the picture is there, but it does not become visible to you instantly. So Swamiji used to love giving that example to us. Polaroid. Yeah, the Polaroid was, you look at it and at first looks completely grey. Then the silhouettes come, the outlines of the person comes. And pretty soon the colors become into. Okay. And so then slowly, it becomes more and more clear. And after a while, it becomes a full picture. So, to close off that topic, and this is what I was saying about your answers and so on and so forth, that even the people who did very well, in my opinion, and by the way, I would say that out of those 10 or so people out of the 36 who did well are generally people that have been listening for a while. So this is where the Shravanam and Mananam, the more you do, the clear, this is the Polaroid kind of a picture. So there is a certain correlation to the length of listening. And I find that many people who joined relatively recently did not have that kind of a view, which is very understandable, which is nothing, it's not disappointing, it's not, none of that. It is just according to the plan. Swami Paramarthananda has given this so well. He said, Shravanam doesn't mean just attending a few classes. It is a lifetime of learning. And then slowly it percolates. This is what Jivan Mukti is. It doesn't come suddenly. But the thoughts of Jivan Mukti have to be entertained slowly. You have to make sure that you're not completely involved in the worldly affairs without any regards to the presence of Brahman and so on and so forth. You have to bring it in. And as it starts to work, then the fading of the world becomes gradual. And the palpability of Brahman in your own self, as your own self becomes real. So that's the point I was making, is that these are aspirational thoughts. So some of you that perhaps didn't have those answers might say, well, I didn't know you wanted us to do that, which is understandable. Many times I saw a couple of experienced people not give me the right answer. Right answer means not the close answer. And I think they can always say, I didn't understand that's what you wanted me to do. Completely understandable, because my asking for the quiz also is limited. That's why I had to revise it the second time to say that give your personal view. Anyway, all of this is the background. Let us now look at the real, what would I do? What answers would I do? Okay. So to do that, let us look at the progress of how knowledge takes place. And I think you are very familiar with this. This should not come as a new thing to you. But nevertheless, in summarizing form, this is how I would do it. So the stages of this Brahma Vidya are, first of all, you have no knowledge of Brahman, no knowledge of the self. You are a complete samsari. You and I both. We are complete samsaris, total samsaris. No idea about that. Then, the next one is that the Shastra explains what is going on, tells you about Lakshanam and Pramanam, and this makes sense. It makes sense that the incidental and the intrinsic, how Ishvara is, all of that just makes sense. And I think most of you that have answered it correctly. Some of you, I think, answered, which is a non-answer, because you said the Tatastha Lakshanam of Ishvara is the incidental quality of Ishvara. So you just translated the question from Tatastha from Sanskritam to English. I don't consider that to be an answer. Anyway, this is okay. We have to start somewhere. But So the second stage is, it makes sense. Yes, this is yes, and I don't have no doubts about it, and so on and so forth. But this is kept at a distance. Ishvara has Tatastha Lakshanam. He is the cause of the world. Everything that is happening is the cause of the world. And the Swarupa Lakshanam is that it is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Yes, it is kept at a distance. How about yourself? Oh, well, I am just a student. And I'm learning the truths about it. I'm very happy to learn about this and so on. So this is what is called Paroksha Jnana. You know all of this. I'm just giving you a summary so that we can see how the evaluation goes, how the Jivan Mukti progresses. So this is called Paroksha Jnana. Paroksha Jnana means that, it looks, sometimes you can even say Paroksha Jnanam as Samanya Jnanam. I think there is an example that Swami Maheshananji had given, and I think even the other Swamis also must have given at some point or the other, which is very appropriate to this process. So from that standpoint, the Paroksha and Samanya are synonymous, and Aparoksha and Vishesha Jnanam are synonymous. How? So supposing you are sitting outside the home in your porch, in your front yard. Porch means just somewhere outside. You're looking outside. You find that there is a person walking towards you from a great distance. Now, there are stages of recognition of that person from your standpoint. It's very possible that the person may be so distant you are not even sure it's a human being or an animal. Could be a huge dog. You're not sure of it. But then as the person comes to you, the next stage is that you say this is a person. But you're not sure whether it is a man or a woman. Not sure. You don't have enough specificity to be able to determine that. But you know this is a person. You keep on looking, you're reading a newspaper and occasionally you look. Then the person comes closer to you. And now you can tell it's a woman, not a man. So that is the next stage of specificity. But then as the person comes even closer, so this is Samanya Jnanam. Stages of Samanya Jnanam, but Samanya Jnanam means that there is someone, and now it becomes a little bit more Vishesha. Then the person comes so close, you recognize this is your friend who is coming to see you. Now you put your newspaper down, you walk down the steps and you say, "Hi." Now you recognize the person exactly like the person is. Your response is also different. At first you were uncertain. You could see it, but you were not sure of it. Samanya Jnanam. I think this is a very good example of the process of recognizing Ishvara in our lives. Because, the method and the message of Vedanta is Jiveshvara Aikyam, identity of your Jivatvam. Jivatva means the who I think I am. That identity with what Ishvara is. Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same. This is the end point. This is what Tattvamasi is. All the Mahavakyas portray the same thing. It is not a general recognition of what Ishvara is, but a particular recognition, oh my God, who I am is nothing but the form of Ishvara. And in fact, as Tatastha Lakshanam, we have some differences, but as Swarupa Lakshanam, we have no differences. It's Aikyam. So these are the stages of Brahmagyanam. So the first stage is Ajnanam. You don't even know whether the person is coming to you is a person or an animal. Then it becomes Paroksha Jnanam. So the Paroksha Jnanam is that the person is really a woman coming, not a man coming. That much you know. But it is not Aparoksha where you find that this is an accurate recognition, totally accurate recognition that this is a friend of yours. Similarly here also, a recognition that Ishvara is Tatastha Lakshanam. Ishvara is where the whole world comes and dissolves and stays, both the Pralaya as well as Sthiti as well as Janma, all three of them, in whom it doesn't go into anything else but it goes back into Ishvara. This is Tatastha Lakshanam. And the Swarupa Lakshanam is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, which is the very basis that it doesn't change at all, and it is infinite, and it is Satchidananda, it's Ananda Swarupa. This is the Swarupa Lakshana. But at this point, this is still Paroksha Jnana. Aparoksha Jnanam means it is not different from who I am. I am the very form of Ishvara, in a very small form of Ishvara, but the form of Ishvara, as a Tatastha Lakshana. And Swarupa Lakshanam, I am no different. I am the same Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Satchidananda. So, the answers, just to summarize, if you have to give a very concise answer of Tatastha Lakshanam of Ishvara and the Swarupa Lakshanam of Ishvara from my own personal viewpoint as aspirational thoughts towards Jivan Mukti, aspirational thoughts towards an understanding of what Ishvara's form is, will be as follows. Question number 1, Tatastha Lakshanam. I would say, whatever is happening to me is Tatastha Lakshanam of Ishvara. Everything that is happening to me, my waking up in the morning, my sense of hunger, thirst, my going for addressing my desires, my ability to successfully address my desires or be unable to address my desires, my body, my senses, everything, my breathing, my ability to eliminate wasteful products, my my ability to talk, to listen, to grow, to cease growing, to have friends, to not have friends, everything that is happening to me is Tatastha Lakshanam of Ishvara. And the Swarupa Lakshana of Ishvara is I was never born. I remain free. I am timeless. Not that I'm going to hang around the time for a long time. I am timeless. Time is mithya. And according to what we said, the mithya was, disappears. I am anantam. These thoughts are the Swarupa Lakshana of Ishvara. This is the way I would have answered the question. This is the way I would like us to answer this question. And so, in this system of grading that I talked about, if you define the Tatastha and Swarupa Lakshanam as one who is the cause of the whole world, and one who is in the form of Satyam Jnanam Anantam, in my opinion, you get a B, not an A. But if you presented this as no different from you, as not being any different from Ishvara, you don't look upon Ishvara as distant from you, then that is the aparoksha jnanam in aspirational view. Again, not doesn't mean that you are Jivan Mukta. If you are Jivan Mukta, then you won't even attend a class. Then you'll be gone. And if some of the people have dropped out, maybe they have become Jivan Muktas. I don't know. It was interesting, Swami. One time, I remember this so well. There was a person from India, a man from India, who approached Swami Dayanandji one time. And I don't know if I was at the satsang or maybe I heard about it. I can't remember the specifics. But anyway, this is early on, about 20, 30 years ago. Now it has become a torrent. But there were people who came to this country and wanted to, not sure whether they wanted to go back to India or not. Excuse me. So they asked Swamiji, Swamiji, I need your advice. Here's my situation. And he described the situation. And I want to know whether I should go back to India or stay here. What would you advise? I remember this so well. So Swamiji said, because you're asking me, you have so many doubts, I think you should stay for now. Decide later. Stay for now. So this person says, Swamiji, that's a very strange response. That because you're asking me I should stay, what do you mean by that? Swamiji said, listen, if your thoughts of going back to India were so strong, if the case for going back to India was so strong, you would never even have asked me. You would not even have approached me. As it happens, many times people make a decision, then afterwards they call Swamiji and said, Swamiji, I just want to let you know that I am returning to India. Okay, fine, done. But because you are uncertain, that means that my telling you, I can give you my view, but you are best to understand your own view. So similarly here also, if you were Jivan Mukta completely, you wouldn't even be looking at classes or studying, you would be done. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna somewhere. But because we are all in the process of doing so, we have to, forgive my looking at this because the phone is also giving me some messages on WhatsApp and so on. So I want to make sure there's nothing that is disturbing the class. So that's why I have to look that way. So anyway, so this is the situation. That the quiz has different stages to it. And those of you that have been studying for a while, many of you gave the right answer, that really our life itself is nothing but an exposition of the presence of Ishvara. So this is the real meaning of Jiveshvara Aikyam. Anyway, this is not enough time to explain all that. It will take a little bit more time. But I just wanted to give you, in the context of this quiz and the answers to the quiz and the grading of the quiz, how we approach this. So I hope it is helpful to you. And I think, I was just thinking, I just made some notes to myself. So one way to go in the right direction. So I think this is an important thing. You and I may not have reached the destination yet. We all will. We are all going. But the thing that we can control, which is our responsibility, is to go in the right direction. You may not be there. That is up to Ishvara to give us the karma phala or the jnana phala. Not totally up to us. Because Ishvara's blessing is important and it will happen in time. But what is in my hands is I don't make things difficult by going in the wrong direction. This is what is called Dig Brahma. Dig Brahma means that you are confused about the direction. You think this was going to north, you're actually going towards the south. That one you need to correct. And you may not be able to correct because you had Dig Brahma, because there's some things that are really making you confused. But at least you should start by correcting that. So if you go in that direction, here's one idea that I have that will ensure that you are going in the right direction. Okay? And so this is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Labha labhau jaya jayau. The samatva buddhi means that whether you are winning or losing, whether you are dukkhi or sukhi, you have a way of distancing yourself from the results. And how do we do this? So this is a suggestion. So suppose you were expecting something, whatever, and the results that you got were very disappointing. You didn't meet your expectations. Your normal reaction will be, I am very disappointed. And then when you take that thought on that I'm disappointed, it has many offsprings. Offsprings like, why does my disappointments occur again and again? What have I done that makes me unsuccessful? Those kinds of things. I'm just taking one example of that. What do I have to do? I'm incapable of really following the right way. This is happening again and again. I don't know, others are doing very well. I don't know what's wrong with me. All those offsprings things that kind of consolidate your sense of disappointment. For a student of Vedanta, this is going in the wrong direction. Then what is the right direction? So the right direction doesn't mean that you don't have disappointments. But it's the way you handle the disappointments that distinguish whether you're going in the wrong or the right direction. So what is the right direction? The right direction is, even in the very beginning, instead of embracing the thought, I am disappointed. 854. Okay. Instead of embracing the thought that I am disappointed, you begin the thinking, I see disappointment in my mind. And the same thing is true for elation. When you are very happy, the wrong direction is, I am very happy. The right direction is, I see a sense of relief in my mind. When you start to look at things in that way, start, not the end, it's a start. You sow the seeds of going in the right direction. Those of you that have been listening to Swami Tattvavedananda Ji, this is one of his favorite excuse me. Swami Tattvavedananda Ji is one of his favorites. Way of doing that, if you recall this, is that the day you renounce pleasure is the day you start the path towards peacefulness. And it is exactly the same thing that we are talking about. That to create a distance between what your mind's condition is and you as a Sakshi that can see both sides of the picture, disappointments as well as elation, is going in the right direction. And why are you not quite there yet? Because from time to time you cannot but help to say, I am disappointed, I am elated, I am very happy. But if you are sincere in your pursuit of the eventual freedom, you will increase your emphasis on this being separate from what you see until it becomes a habit. Swami Maheshananji gives this beautiful example. I really was a long time ago when he says this is how we learn languages. So the Paroksha Jnanam and the reaching that is like learning a language. When we learn a new language, how halting we are. We can't even understand the alphabet. And then we string together the alphabets and we make words and we know how to pronounce it. We don't know how to use them in sentences. Then we start using them in sentences. And then the sentence has to be haltingly put together. If I'm too old to learn new languages. But if I were to take up German or Spanish or something, this is what I would do. All I know about Spanish is just a few mi casa, etc. Even our housekeeper who comes in and she speaks a few Spanish words, I can just barely understand. But if I were to really do this is exactly what I would do. But after a while, language becomes a second nature to you, like we're speaking in English. Exactly the same thing is true for learning of Vedanta. In the beginning, you will say, I'm very happy. You should catch yourself. This is not really what the right direction is. The right direction is a sense of independence towards all my experiences. So the same thing is true for finding the Tatastha Lakshanam and Swarupa Lakshanam of Ishvara from a personal standpoint. And we are so used to just being isolated as an individual. These things are happening to me, I don't know where Ishvara is and so on. But then gradually, it's not going to happen all of a sudden, as we said before. But gradually you should see, and gradually meaning that this is the right direction. It's not as though it's not, as Swamiji says, fake it until you make it. Doesn't mean that you cannot make it. You will eventually make it, but you just have, in the beginning, just have to force it a little bit. Just like learning a language, you have to force it until it becomes a second nature. So all I'm saying in conclusion of this whole exercise is that if you took the view in answering the quiz that this is not my personal experience, I am just going to tell you what I see as the previous classes talking about it. We had already defined it, that what is the Tatastha Lakshana, and some of you just went back to the notes and simply said, okay, this is what it is. And you said that this is not my thought, so therefore I'm not going to say that. That's not what I would like to have seen. I would like to see aspirational thoughts, not your current thoughts. And if you said you didn't ask, you didn't tell me about that, it's my limitation that I cannot give you all the specifications of the. It is exactly like Swami Dayananda saying, that the reason I think you should not go back to India is because you asked me. If you have to explain everything, that means that you don't get it yet. Not get it yet, but you know what I mean. So anyway, I think that we have spent enough time on this quiz, and hopefully this was helpful to you. This is helpful to do Mananam this way. And we might do it again, I don't know. I think some of you said that you liked it. Most of you didn't say anything about it, but it doesn't make any difference. I'll see how we will proceed. Okay. 903. All right, I think we can go back to the Brahma Sutras, and maybe for only 10 minutes or so before the class ends. But let's pick up the thread. Okay, so where we were in the analysis of the second sutra, so now this is picking up where we had left off. Where we were in the second sutra was that the commentators of Adi Shankara and some of his disciples pointed out that there are challenges by certain people to the following assumption that Vedanta uses. So what assumption Vedanta used is that the second sutra, Janmadi Yasya Yataha, is only the pramana. And the third sutra that will come later on will give you, the first sutra is Lakshana. Second sutra is the Lakshana, and the third one will be the pramana. Right? This is what we say. Here the Nayayikas, so Nyaya, the Nyaya people who are given to reasoning, and the best way, I think I'm just repeating myself, that the Nayayikas are the modern scientists. To the modern all scientists, not only the modern scientists, all scientists, the scientific view is that it has to be proven. You have to duplicate it over and over again. And if it cannot be duplicated, then you cannot bring out the truth of it. And so it has to be done that way, and everything is subject to my analysis and logic. Everything has to be logical. This is what they say. And we don't disagree with that, but we say the following. What you consider to be pure logic doesn't work. So they say, what do you mean it doesn't work? Of course it works. Because the basis of our analysis is logic. If it makes sense to our mind and it couldn't be duplicated, then it must be right. If it cannot be done that way, then it is not right. This is how they look at it. So we say that is generally true, but not absolutely true. What is absolutely true is that you rely upon the Vedas, which are the only way to explain the totality of the world. Why is it the only way to explain the totality of the world? It is because, as though, so you have to understand this, it is as though, supposing you are in a dream, and you're having a discussion between you, the dreamer, is having, in your dream there is a discussion going on between you and somebody else, or perhaps two other people in your dream. That's also very possible. You're just observing them, there are two people who are discussing. And they say, I think this is the way it should be. The other person says, no, it's not there. Look at it this way, it should be logical. The other person says, no, it's more experiential. Doesn't matter about logic. All those discussions are taking place. Okay? the contention is none of them are correct. Why? Because they are within the dream. There is a falsity of their truth because of the very fact that they are products of the dream. So then what should we do? Only the person who is outside the dream can come up with the truth. So similarly here, we say that Kapila Muni was a very intelligent Muni and a very intelligent person who started the Nyaya Shastra. And all the other ones, Sankhya and Yoga and so on and so forth, are all within the creation. They came out with their own logical explanation. And within the creation means it is not correct. No matter how close they are in embracing logic and so on. Why? Because you need a person who is unencumbered by the world, who is timeless, who is spaceless, to understand what time and space and all the other karyas within the world are. You cannot do that. And that is only possible in Vedas. Because the Vedas are not human-made. Apaurusheya. It's not Paurusheya. Paurusheya means Purushajanyaha, made by human beings. Apaurusheya means not done by human beings, by Ishvara. Now, having done so, you cannot simply say that the logic doesn't work, because it works. But the logic has to be consistent with what Ishvara's view is, because you're otherwise leaving out some important elements of the logic, as will be explained by Adi Shankara. This is the direction we are going. So therefore, to close the loop, here the Nayayika is saying, wait a second. Why do you say that Janmadi Yasya Yataha, which is the second sutra, is only giving you Lakshana and not the Pramana? I tell you what, that sutra gives both Lakshana and Pramana. We don't need Shastra. We don't need Vedas. Even though the Nayayikas actually believe in the Vedas, but not completely in the way the Vedantin does. It's a partial view. So they say that we like Vedas. It's good, but so here's the view. Very interesting. We talked about Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhava. These are the three filters. Okay? We've already, you know this by now. What the Vedantins say is that there is a certain sequence to it. What is the sequence? The primary pramana is Shruti. The secondary pramana is Yukti and Anubhava. Nayayikas say Yukti is the pramana and the Shruti is secondary. This is where the differences go. And this is an important thing that is being pointed out. Anyway, to continue our analysis, the Nayayika raises the hand and says, listen, the second sutra defines Brahman and also gives us the logic for understanding. You don't need anything else. No, the other sutras are not necessary. This is it. Janmadi Yasya Yataha. From there you can see Tatastha Lakshana, you can see Swarupa Lakshana. That's it. And we say no. And here Adi Shankara, so just in the few minutes left, points out the first of the reasons, which is a rather simple reason. It doesn't go into a lot of depth, but to start things off, this is what the first answer is from Shankara. And Shankara says the reason we do not accept your view is the Brahma Sutra is not the brainchild of Vyasacharya, as you are the brainchild of Nayayika or Sankhya or Yoga or Vaisheshika. All of those, you came out with it. Similarly in Buddhism, Jainism, Islam, Christianity, all those came much later. But in all of these, they were started by human beings. And so the Brahma Sutra is not like that, because Vyasacharya did not invent Brahman. He was born into the understanding of Brahman as given by Vedanta. All he did was to explain it better than what was done before, that's all, which is done from time to time. So, the Brahma Sutras are called Vedanta Sutras. It is nothing but an explanation of the various Upanishads that already occur in Vedanta. Structured in the right way, that's all. That's exactly what Bhagavad Gita all does. All of the Smritis and Puranas, everything, they're all subservient to the Shruti. Excuse me. So the first reason he gives is, Adi Shankara gives is, that Mr. Nayayikas, we are different. You rely on logic, we rely on the Shruti. This is not our brainchild. This is simply an explanation of removing the doubts of the Shruti. So this is how he starts the first answer to Nayayikas. But this is just a start. Then we go into the logical explanation why the Nayayikas, the modern science, you can substitute the word science, why the scientific community is incomplete. They do not have the full understanding of the truth because they are confused about many things. Most importantly, they are confused about the consciousness itself. And so that's how the answers will proceed, and we will take it up. So I think with that I will close the class, then enunciate the last 5 verses of Dakshinamurti Stotra, and to see if you have any questions. Om Rahu Grasta Divankarendu Sadrisho Maya Samachadinat Sanmatra Karanopasamharnato Yo Bhut Sushuptaf Puman Pragaswap Samiti Prabodha Samaye Yat Pratyabhigyayate Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaitam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Balyadishu api jagradadishu tatha Sarva svavastha svapi Vyavritta svanuvartamanam Ahamityantas purantam sada Swatmanam prakati karoti bhajatam Yo mudraya bhadraya Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaitam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Vishvam Pashyati Karyakaranataya Swaswami Sambandhataha Shishyacharyataya Tathaiva Pitra Putradyatmana Bhedataha Swapne Jagriti Vaya Esha Purusho Maya Paribhramitaha Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaitam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Bhurambhamsya nalo nilo ambaramaharnartho himamshuf puman Ityabhati chara charatmakamidam Yasyaiva murtyashtakam नान्यत् किंचन विद्यते विमृशताम् यस्मात् परस्मात् विभोः तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये सर्वात्मत्वमिति स्फुटीकृतमिदं यस्मादमुष्मिंस्तवे तेनास्य श्रवणात् तदर्थमननात् ध्यानात् च संकीर्तनात् सर्वात्मत्वमहाविभूतिसहितं स्यादीश्वरत्वं स्वतः सिद्धेत् तत्पुनरष्टधा परिणतं चैश्वर्यमव्याहतम् अशुभानि निराचष्टे तनोति शुभसन्ततिं स्मृतिमात्रेण यत्पुंसां ब्रह्मतत्मङ्गलं परम् अतिकल्याणरूपत्वात् नित्यकल्याणसंशयात् स्मर्तॄणां वरदत्वात् च ब्रह्मतन्मङ्गलं विदुः ओंकारश्चाथ शब्दश्च द्वावेतौ ब्रह्मणः पुरा कंठं भित्त्वा विनिर्यातौ तस्मान् माङ्गलिकौ बुभौ ओमथ 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 ओम असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ओम शांति 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 हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम।